Good morning, students. In this session, in this video, we are going to complete about the anterior pituitary hormones. Now, anterior pituitary is actually also known as adenohypophyseal gland, and this is also called as master endocrine gland. Why it is called as master endocrine gland? Because it regulates almost all the other hormones of our body. It regulates the thyroid hormone through TSH. Then it stimulates ACTH that acts upon the adrenal cortex. It secretes gonadotropins, that is LH and FSH. They act on the ovaries and testes, and they produce estrogen and testosterone. So, pituitary is called as the master endocrine gland of the body. All the hormones which are released by pituitary are secreted by the pituitary in the circulation, and then they are carried to their target organs. Pituitary ka secretion is regulated by hypothalamus. This we have seen earlier also. So hypothalamus secretes some hormones, and these are either release hormones or they are release inhibitors, and they are secreted into a hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system, and through that it comes to the pituitary, acts on the pituitary, and then pituitary secretes or reduces the secretion. There's another feedback mechanism by the target gland. Like if thyroid gland is there and it is secreting T3 and T4, and now the T3 and T4 secretion is going normal, or it is more than normal, it is secreting more. Suppose there's hyperthyroidism, then in that case it will go to the hypothalamus and say that okay, I've got enough, so reduce the secretion of TSH. So hypothalamus will secrete less of TRH. Less of TRH will reduce TSH from the pituitary, and that reduced TSH will further reduce the T3 and T4 from the thyroid gland. Similarly, there's this positive inhibition or positive feedback also, that the secretion of thyroid glands is less. Suppose T3 is less in the body, so that stimulation goes to the hypothalamus that okay, secrete more of TRH. ज़्यादा TRH निकलता है, ज़्यादा TSH निकलता है, और फिर T3 ज़्यादा होता है सिक्रीट. तो इस तरीके से एक पूरा हमारी बॉडी में एक फीडबैक मैकेनिज्म है through which positive or negative feedback is given to the hypothalamus by the target organ, which further balances the hormone secretion by the target organ, by the pituitary and organs. Now, pituitary has got two type of cells. They are acidophils and basophils. Acidophils, they secrete, they are also called as somatotropes and lactotropes. So somatotropes, they release GH, that is growth hormone, and lactotropes, they release prolactin. Okay. Then they have basophil cells. Now basophil cells, they secrete three hormones, that is TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. It stimulates corticotropes, that is ACTH, and it stimulates or secretes gonadotropins, that is LH and FSH. So remember, acidophil cells are lactotropes and somatotropes. Basophil cells are thyrotropes, corticotropes and gonadotropes. After that, then there are some drugs which stimulate or inhibit the secretion of hormones from the pituitary. So let's see that classification. There are some drugs which stimulate growth hormone release, which inhibit growth hormone release. Then similarly, drugs which stimulate prolactin release, and drugs which inhibit prolactin release. So these are the drugs which alter the anterior pituitary hormone secretion. Now the first category, let's see. Drugs which inhibit GH release, that is somatostatin, octreotide and lanreotide. Drugs which inhibit the prolactin release are bromocriptine, cabergoline, apomorphine. Drugs which enhance the prolactin release are chlorpromazine, metoclopramide. Then there are drugs which inhibit the gonadotropin release. So in this we have GnRH antagonist, that is ganirelix, cetrorelix and relugolix. And then we have superactive GnRH agonist, which initially enhance the gonadotropin release. In this we have nafarelin, goserelin, leuprolide and triporelin. Now this whole classification is important for you, as a lot of questions are asked on somatotropin, bromocriptine, cabergoline, then leuprolide. So these are very commonly asked questions. Let's see them one by one. Now let's see growth hormone specifically. Now growth hormone क्या होता है, इसे एक simple language में समझो. So growth hormone is basically a hormone which will cause the growth of the body. So it causes a proportionate increase in the size and mass of all the organs of the body. It causes hyperplasia. Normal जो bone structure है, bone stature है, height है, हमारा जनरल एक बॉडी बिल्ट है वो ग्रोथ हार्मोन करवाता है. Except for brain and eye, growth hormone doesn't act on these two organs. Except for them, growth hormone acts on all the other organs and increases the size and the mass. How does it do that? It basically creates a positive nitrogen balance. ये basically nitrogen, calcium जितने भी growth के लिए जो ज़रूरी minerals हैं उनको इकट्ठा करता है. It increases the formation of protoplasm, so increases the muscle formation. लाइपोलाइसिस कराता है, जो फैट होता है उसको ब्रेक डाउन करता है. एंड इट ऑल्सो इंक्रीजेज द ग्लूकोनियोजेनेसिस एंड ग्लाइकोजिनोलाइसिस एंड कॉजेज इंक्रीज इन द ब्लड ग्लूकोज लेवल्स. So growth hormone actually increases the blood glucose levels also, and it reduces, also promotes the utilization of fat and causes increased protein synthesis. So इन सब चीज़ों के कारण जो पर्सन की हाइट है वो नॉर्मली बढ़ती है. नाउ ग्रोथ हार्मोन जो है डायरेक्टली तो एक्ट करता ही है, इनडायरेक्टली ऑल्सो इट एक्ट्स थ्रू सम पेप्टाइड्स विच आर कॉल्ड एज इंसुलिन लाइक ग्रोथ फैक्टर्स और सोमैटोमीडियंस. Now insulin like growth factors are of two types. Mainly it is IGF-1, but we also have IGF-2, and the main production is from the liver, but other organs also produce. Now this IGF-1, it particularly basically acts on the kidney, viscera, bone, fat, muscle, everywhere, and it further increases the actions of growth hormones. Then IGF-1 also has an inhibitory effect, a negative feedback to the hypothalamus and the pituitary, that when there is an increased IGF, then pituitary stops secreting the growth hormone. So the hypothalamus reduces the secretion and then the pituitary also reduces. Now the release of growth hormone from the brain, from the pituitary, is basically regulated by hypothalamus by secretion of GHRH, that is growth hormone release hormone, and GHIRH, that is growth hormone release inhibitory hormone. Now this growth hormone release inhibitory hormone is also called as somatostatin. So this somatostatin is secreted by hypothalamus, it goes to the pituitary, reduces the secretion of growth hormone. As a result, IGF also decreases, and then the effect of growth hormone is reduced. Now growth hormone, it acts through a JAK-STAT kinase enzyme, which is kinase enzyme type of receptor which is present on the cell surface. So when it comes and attaches to the extracellular unit of that JAK-STAT kinase enzyme receptor, then there is a change in the conformational structure of the enzyme inside in the intracellular surface. There is dimerization, and further cascade mechanisms they get activated, which result in the action of the growth hormone. Now another important thing is, what are the pathophysiology related to growth hormone? Now growth hormone अगर excess होगा चाइल्डहुड में तो इट विल रिजल्ट इन जाइजेंटिज्म, जो एक बड़ी लंबी हाइट, बड़े लंबे हाथ पैर, डील डॉल पूरा तगड़ा, तो that is called as gigantism, and that happens because of excess of growth hormone secretion in childhood. If it is secreted in adults, after attainment of puberty and after the full growth has happened, then it is called as acromegaly, because then what happens, the height doesn't increase, but there's a general increase in the body structure. Then another thing is, if it is secreted less in the childhood, then it results in dwarfism. Now this dwarfism is different from the thyroid hormone का dwarfism और cretinism, क्योंकि थायराइड हार्मोन की डेफिशिएंसी में जो ड्वार्फिज्म होता है वो उसको बोलते हैं हम क्रेटिनिज्म, एंड उसमें देयर इज द ब्रेन डेवलपमेंट इज अफेक्टेड, सो देयर इज मेंटल रिटार्डेशन. While in pituitary dwarfism, the mental retardation is not there. The dwarf is as intelligent as an adult. Only thing is the body structure is small. So this is the difference. Now coming to the uses of growth hormone. Growth hormone as such it is not used. What we use is the recombinant growth hormone, which is also called as somatotropin. Now this somatotropin can be used first of all in dwarfism, then in patients who are having growth hormone deficiency. It can be used in constitutionally short stature children. It can be used in AIDS, wasting. Then it is also used in chronic renal insufficiency patients, in Turner syndrome patients, and also in patients who are having HIV wasting, like loss of muscle, loss of the body becomes thin and cachexic in AIDS. So that also we use growth hormone. Then this is also a part of the dope drug complex, which is tested in athletics. Then another drug, now that we have another new drug, that is mecasermin. Now mecasermin is actually a recombinant IGF-1, and this drug is basically used nowadays. It is used subcutaneously twice daily and is used in short stature children who are not responding to the growth hormone, that is somatropin. So we have mecasermin. This is an IGF, a recombinant IGF-1 used in short stature children who are not responding to growth hormones, and it is administered subcutaneously twice daily. This drug has one side effect, that is hypoglycemia. Then after growth hormone analogs, we have growth hormone inhibitors. In that we have somatostatin, octreotide, lanreotide and pegvisomant. Now somatostatin is a very interesting drug. Lot of questions are asked on somatostatin. So this drug, somatostatin, is actually an inhibitor of growth hormone. And not just growth hormone, it also inhibits. Somatostatin is a very interesting drug. Why it is interesting? Because it is an inhibitor of growth hormone, and not just growth hormone. It inhibits TSH, it inhibits prolactin, then it also inhibits insulin, glucagon from the pancreas, and almost all the GI secretions. So first of all, this drug is found to be beneficial in patients who are having pituitary tumors, pituitary adenomas, acromegaly. Then second use is patients who are having diarrhea due to carcinoid syndrome, that is secretory diarrhea due to carcinoid syndrome, or HIV, or diabetes, or AIDS. So it is used in secretory diarrheas because it reduces all the GI secretions. Third use, now this somatostatin also causes constriction of splanchnic vessels. It causes hepatic, renal and splanchnic blood vessels constriction. So this effect is useful in bleeding esophageal varices. So somatostatin is also a drug of choice in bleeding esophageal varices. Although we don't use somatostatin because of short duration of action, we use octreotide. Octreotide is the drug which is now used instead of somatostatin. So this remember, first of all तो acromegaly वाला यूज़ हो गया. सेकेंड इसका यूज़ हुआ secretory diarrheas में. थर्ड इसका यूज़ हुआ bleeding esophageal varices में, bleeding peptic ulcer में, एंड एक और है इसका फोर्थ, it is also used in pancreatic biliary and intestinal fistulae because it is reducing the secretions. It can also be used after complications of pancreatic surgery. So somatostatin के ऊपर बहुत सारे questions बन सकते हैं. You should definitely do the somatostatin wala part of the growth hormone. Then we have octreotide. Now octreotide is a long duration action drug, and it is also more potent, 40 times more potent than octreotide is 40 times more potent than somatostatin, and it is also a longer acting drug. So this drug is found to be effective in acromegaly, pituitary adenomas and secretory diarrheas due to AIDS and diabetes or carcinoid syndrome and cancer chemotherapy. Then the other drug is lanreotide. Now lanreotide is also a long acting analog of octreotide, and it is also used. The fourth drug in this category is pegvisomant. Now pegvisomant is actually PEG, PEG, that is polyethylene glycol complexed mutant growth hormone है ये. So pegvisomant is actually pegylated, you can understand the pegylated growth hormone है. So ये basically एक तरीके से long acting हो जाता है, and it acts as a growth hormone antagonist, and complexion with PEG actually improves the clinical efficacy, makes it more longer acting and decreases the clearance. Pegvisomant is mainly used in pituitary adenomas and acromegaly due to pituitary adenomas. Coming to the second hormone in pituitary, it is prolactin. Now prolactin is, as the name suggests, it helps in lactation. So it is found to increase the growth of the breast acinar cells, and synthesis of milk is induced, milk proteins and lactose is synthesized, and at the time of parturition then it also helps in increase release of milk. So this is the work of prolactin. Now prolactin का एक और खासियत है कि it suppresses the hypothalamus. It suppresses the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis by inhibiting the secretion of GnRH, that is gonadotropin release hormone. So इससे क्या होता है कि जब तक prolactin secreted रहेगा तब तक there will be no secretion of LH, FSH, and so there will be inhibition of ovulation. Ovulation नहीं होगा तो amenorrhea रहेगा and patient infertile रहेगा. So there is a loss of libido, infertility, amenorrhea, lactational amenorrhea during when the mother is lactating, and that is the reason why it happens. So that because the mother is lactating, so there's a high prolactin, and that is why the mother is not having amenorrheic, mother is amenorrheic, or she is not having ovulatory cycles, and there is in general infertility. Now what happens, prolactin is now regulated by a substance which is released from hypothalamus, which is called as PRIH, that is prolactin release inhibitory hormone, which is also dopamine. Please remember, PRIH is actually dopamine. It acts on the D2 receptors, and by acting on the D2 receptors, it inhibits prolactin synthesis and prolactin release from the pituitary. सो अब देखो, डोपामिन अगर इनिबिटर है तो जो डोपामिनर्जिक एगोनिस्ट होंगे वो भी प्रोलैक्टिन को इनिबिट करेंगे ना. सो डोपामिनर्जिक एगोनिस्ट क्या है हमारे पास, ब्रोमोक्रिप्टिन, कैबरगोलिन, ये हमारे पास डोपामिन एगोनिस्ट है. और डोपामिन के जो एंटागोनिस्ट हैं वो प्रोलैक्टिन को बढ़ाएंगे. सो डोपामिन एंटागोनिस्ट लाइक मेटोक्लोप्रोमाइड और एंटीसाइकोटिक्स, दे विल इंक्रीज प्रोलैक्टिन एंड दे विल कॉज हाइपर प्रोलैक्टिनीमिया, राइट. So this all is very important to understand. This interaction is very important to understand. Now pathophysiological involvement, मैंने आपको बताया कि hyperprolactinemia अगर होता है तो then it causes amenorrhea, infertility, loss of libido, and hyperprolactinemia normally occurs whenever there's a microprolactinoma in the brain. There's a small tumor in the pituitary which is prolactinoma, and it causes increased prolactin. Now let's see what are the prolactin inhibitors. इनिबिटर्स को देख लेते हैं. इसमें सबसे पहले जो दवाई आती है वो है ब्रोमोक्रिप्टिन. नाउ ब्रोमोक्रिप्टिन आप सबने पढ़ी भी होगी, और भी डिसीजेस में पढ़ी है. कहाँ पढ़ी है हमने ब्रोमोक्रिप्टिन को? हमने पढ़ा है पार्किंसोनिज्म में भी, ठीक है. सो बिकॉज इट इज़ अ डोपामिन एगोनिस्ट. सो डोपामिन एगोनिस्ट है तो डेफिनेटली पार्किंसोनिज्म में जहाँ पे डोपामिन की कमी है वहाँ पे ब्रोमोक्रिप्टिन या कैबरगोलिन भी यूज़ किए जाते हैं. हालांकि अब ब्रोमोक्रिप्टिन इज नॉट यूज्ड इन पार्किंसोनिज्म. द ड्रग न्यूअर D2 receptor agonist, that is ropinirole and pramipexole, are used in Parkinsonism. Now this bromocriptine, it reduces the prolactin levels, it increases the growth hormone levels, it acts as levodopa in the brain, it causes nausea, vomiting by stimulating the CTZ center, and it also causes hypertension by its action on central suppression. So this is the bromocriptine. However, it is now superseded by newer agents, so it is not used so much. So the other agent that we have is cabergoline. Cabergoline is found to be more potent than bromocriptine, and it is just week में कितना देना, twice weekly देना होता है. It has got a very long half life, and so just twice weekly cabergoline is sufficient to produce the effect. ठीक है. So it is the drug of first choice in microprolactinomas. And if the patient becomes pregnant, then they have to be stopped. In macroprolactinomas, they should be continued, cabergoline to be continued even if the pregnancy occurs, because as soon as you stop the drug, the risk of increase in the size of tumors will increase. And it is seen that when you give this drug for a long duration, then it slowly the tumor size also reduces, and the visual defects, which is basically due to pressure on the optic chiasma, that is also reduced. So those are the benefits by cabergoline. It is also beneficial in acromegaly, may be used to supplement surgery or radiation or octreotide. So these are the effects of cabergoline. The next hormone of pituitary that we have to discuss is gonadotropin. Now gonadotropins pituitary से दो तरीके के secrete होते हैं, that is LH and FSH. FSH and LH दोनों के बारे में मैं आपको differences बताती हूँ. FSH is mainly involved with the development of the ovum, then with the follicular growth and secretion of estrogen in the ovaries. In the males, it basically induces spermatogenesis. Now in the absence of FSH, there will be ovarian and testicular atrophy. Now what is LH? LH is the hormone which is secreted after FSH, and once the FSH has caused development of ovum and has also resulted in a growth of the follicle to a certain level, and also the development and preparation of the uterus, then LH is released. And LH का main purpose होता है, it triggers ovulation. It triggers ovulation, and then if pregnancy happens, then it sustains the corpus luteum and till the placenta starts secreting the hormones. And if the pregnancy doesn't happen, then it causes luteinization of the Graafian follicle and sustains the corpus luteum till the next menstrual cycle. So that is the work of LH. Now this FSH and LH, they are regulated by a growth hormone, gonadotropin release hormone secreted by the hypothalamus. And this GnRH, that is gonadotropin release hormone, it is secreted in pulse में निकलता है, ऐसे नहीं continuous secrete होता है. It is released in pulses, and the frequency and the amplitude of the secretion is different in all the pulses, and that is how this GnRH actually manages both FSH and LH secretion. क्योंकि जब FSH high है तब ज़रूरी नहीं कि LH high होगा. So that difference in how much FSH is needed, how much LH is needed is basically dependent upon the growth hormone, this GnRH frequency and amplitude of that pulse. Now this is the regulation part, and coming to the pathological involvement, any problem with the gonadotropins is going to result in either precocious puberty or delayed puberty in children, or amenorrhea, infertility, loss of libido in the adult patients. Now for gonadotropins, there are some substances which are preparations of gonadotropins are there. So in that we had menotropin, which was actually a combination of both FSH and LH. Then it was obtained from the urine of menopausal women, that is menotropin. Then here now we have menotropin preparation. Menotropin is there, which is isolated from the urine of menopausal women, which consists of both FSH and LH. Then we have urofoliotropium, which is purely FSH, and it is used in the induction of in vitro fertilization, ovulation in patients with PCOD. Then we have HCG, which is isolated from the urine of pregnant women. That is also found to have action in the patients. Then these gonadotropins, they are mainly used in amenorrhea, infertility. Then they can be used in to aid in vitro fertilization. They are used there. They are used in male hypogonadotropic hypogonadism. That is one use. They were earlier supposed to be used in cryptorchidism, but not now. एडवर्स इफेक्ट में इनका एडवर्स इफेक्ट ये होता है कि व्हेन यू गिव देम गोनाडोट्रोपिन्स को देते तो देर आर समटाइम्स केसेस ऑफ ओवेरियन हाइपर स्टिमुलेशन सिंड्रोम, विच मीन्स देर इज इंक्रीज प्रोलिफरेशन इन द ओवरीज, ओवरियन एनलार्जमेंट, असाइटिस, हाइपोवोलेमिया, ये सब सिम्टम्स होते हैं. मल्टीपल प्रेगनेंसी इज अनदर कॉमन साइड इफेक्ट. नाउ लेट्स सी द GnRH एगोनिस्ट. तो GnRH एगोनिस्ट एक हमारे पास जो गोनाडोट्रोपिन रिलीजिंग हार्मोन, या जिसको हम बोलते हैं गोनाडेरिल, so that is there, which increases the release of gonadotropins. And then we have superactive GnRH agonist, in which we have drugs like goserelin, leuprolide, naferelin and triptorelin. So goserelin, leuprolide, naferelin and triptorelin are GnRH, superactive GnRH agonist. अब इसमें देखो, जो नेचुरल GnRH होता है हमारी बॉडी में, जो नेचुरल प्रोड्यूस होता है वो पल्सेस में प्रोड्यूस होता है, एंड इट मेंटेन्स द सिक्रेशन ऑफ gonadotropins from the pituitary. But the GnRH that we are going to give from outside is actually going to be given continuously. So when you give something continuously over a period of time, initially it will increase the gonadotropins, but after some time it will cause desensitization of the receptors and decreased down regulation, resulting in suppression of FSH and LH. So आप दे तो रहे हो GnRH agonist, लेकिन वो actually काम क्या कर रहे हैं, वो FSH और LH को suppress कर रहे हैं. So ये यहाँ पे एक paradox है which you need to understand. So these drugs are found to be very much useful in situations like prostatic carcinoma, in breast cancer, endometriosis. So these GnRH agonists will actually result in a kind of कैस्ट्रेशन, लाइक ओफरेक्टोमी या ऑर्किडेक्टोमी कर देंगे. तो जब इनको दिया जाता है, दे आर गिवन ईदर बाय सबक्यूटेनियस रूट, इंट्रामस्कुलर रूट, डिपो इंट्रामस्कुलर इंजेक्शंस आर गिवन. सो डिपो इंट्रामस्कुलर इंजेक्शंस will have action for a long duration, while subcutaneous route will act for a short duration. And when they are given, then they reduce the FSH, LH in the body, which will further reduce estrogen, progesterone, testosterone secretion. So that is going to be beneficial in treatment of breast cancer, in treatment of prostatic cancer, in endometriosis, in leiomyoma, PCOD, and precocious puberty. And they are also found to be helpful in assisting induced ovulation or IVF. IVF में कैसे इफेक्टिव होंगे, क्योंकि IVF में क्या है, everything is being monitored and induced in a very specific manner. So there we don't want LH सर्ज, एंडोजीनियस LH सर्ज हमें नहीं चाहिए, तो वो उस एंडोजीनियस LH सर्ज को इनहिबिट करने के लिए हम GnRH एगोनिस्ट को देते हैं, ताकि अंदर से कोई LH सर्ज ना हो। और जैसे FSH पहले FSH इंजेक्ट किया जाता है, FSH के इंजेक्ट करने के बाद फिर HCG इंजेक्ट किया जाता है, जिससे कि ओव्यूलेशन होता है, and then after that ovulation is done and ovums are harvested. So that is the procedure in vitro fertilization, and that is what they want to follow. They don't want any endogenous hormonal surges. So these drugs like nafarelin, goserelin, leuprolide and triptorelin, they are long acting GnRH agonist. They are used in carcinoma prostate. In carcinoma prostate, they are used with an androgen antagonist like flutamide or bicalutamide to reduce the size of the prostate also. They are used in breast cancer, estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. And फिर हमारे पास आते हैं GnRH एंटागोनिस्ट। अब देखो, GnRH एगोनिस्ट तो ऑलरेडी एंटागोनिस्ट का काम कर रहे थे, लेकिन वी हैव GnRH एंटागोनिस्ट ऑल्सो पर से। इनके क्या नाम है? इनके नाम है गैनीरेलिक्स, सेट्रोरेलिक्स, डिगारेलिक्स, एबेरेलिक्स, एंड अब एक नई दवाई आई है, दैट इज रेल्यूगोलिक्स। रेल्यूगोलिक्स आपको क्वेश्चंस न्यू ड्रग्स में भी पूछी जाती है। सो ये जो दवाइयाँ हैं जो GnRH एंटागोनिस्ट हैं, दे आर ऑल्सो डूइंग द सेम थिंग, but they are superior to GnRH agonist. Why? Because they are not, first of all, having an initial gonadotropin secretion, जो कि GnRH agonist में होता है, वो यहाँ पे नहीं है. So there is a complete blockade of gonadotropin release, and so no LH, FSH, no estrogen, progesterone, testosterone is secreted. So that is one thing. Then they don't have that side effect of ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. So that is not there. Then they achieve more complete suppression of endogenous gonadotropin secretion. Now in GnRH antagonist में हमारे पास एक नया drug है which is relugolix. Now this relugolix is actually a new drug approved in just 2023 for androgen deprivation therapy in advanced cases of prostatic carcinoma. Now how does it act? Basically it reduces FSH and LH, so it reduces estrogen, progesterone and testosterone. So that is why, because it reduces testosterone to almost castration levels, it is found to be very much effective in prostatic carcinoma patients. So relugolix is that drug. Then it is also used in uterine fibroids because it reduces the FSH and this estrogen and progesterone in females. Next hormone in pituitary is TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. Now this thyroid stimulating hormone actually goes to the thyroid gland, and there it stimulates the secretion of T3 and TF4. Now how does it do that? It basically causes hyperplasia of the thyroid cells. It increases the trapping of iodide inside the cells. It increases the organification of this trapped iodine and incorporation into T3 and TF4 by increased peroxidase activity. And it also increases the endocytotic uptake of this thyroid globulins, thyroid colloid, by the follicular cells, and then proteolysis of the thyroglobulin to release more of T3 and T4. So this action starts within minutes of taking TSH. Now this TSH is further regulated by the TRH from hypothalamus, which is thyrotropin release hormone. TSH is inhibited by somatostatin, as we all know that is the growth hormone, inhibitory hormone also. And the receptor for TSH and TRH, they both are GPCR, that is G protein coupled receptor. Now regulation of secretion हो गया TSH का. Now what are the pathophysiological involvement? So if you will see, if a patient has got hyperthyroidism में आप clinical picture देखोगे that TSH is raised, TSH is less and T3 and T4 are raised, and so there's a negative feedback. T3, T4 raised है, so they're going to hypothalamus, reduce TRH, reduce TSH, and like this the body is trying to maintain the balance again. And similarly in hypothyroidism, you will see that TSH is raised while T3 and T4 are less. So the TSH is increased, trying to produce more and more T3 and T4 from the thyroid. So now TSH doesn't have any therapeutic value. Even in hypothyroidism, we give thyroxine to the patient. We give that medicine so that the balance is restored. So this is the story about TSH. Detailed about thyroid hormones we will be seeing when we'll go to the thyroid gland subject. Last hormone in the pituitary is ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone. The main function of ACTH is to increase the release of glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, and sex steroids. So as soon as ACTH is secreted from the pituitary, it goes to the adrenal cortex, and there it increases the it causes hyperplasia of the cells and causes steroidogenesis, and जो conversion of cholesterol into pregnenolone है वो भी fast हो जाता है, which is the rate limiting step in the synthesis of steroids. So this is the main function of ACTH. Now ACTH जो है it is acting on all the cells of the cortex. इसका जो inhibitory mechanism है वो है CRH, that is corticotropin releasing hormone, which is secreted by the hypothalamus. So whenever there is a stress condition, it is seen that stress होता है, कोई infection हो गया, some situation is there, exposure to cold, severe pain, anxiety, fear. So there is this negative feedback mechanism जो secrete हो, जो negative feedback mechanism play होता है normally, वो भी inhibit हो जाता है. There's an increased release of cortisols in the blood, and there's an increased release of CRH also from the hypothalamus to pituitary. Pituitary releases ACTH and it increases the cortisol from the cortex. अगर ACTH हम ज़्यादा क्वांटिटी में किसी पेशेंट में देते हैं या हो जाती है, then it can result in a disease which is called as Cushing syndrome, and reduction in the ACTH can result in atrophy of the adrenal cortex. However, adrenal cortex का जो zona glomerulosa है, that is not atrophied because it is further managed by angiotensin 2, which controls this area for the secretion of aldosterone. So please remember this, that lack of ACTH will result in adrenal atrophy but not of zona glomerulosa zone. ठीक है. देन पैथोलॉजिकल मैंने आपको बता दिया, कुशिंग्स हो जाता है. यूजेस ACTH के ऐसे कोई थेरेपेटिक यूजेस नहीं है, डायग्नोस्टिक भी आजकल